some music. Oh wait, I can hear myself as well. That's not good. Oh. There we go. Oh, I think I know what I want to play. Where is it? No, not that one, not this one. Oh, here we go. I don't know if that's a little loud or not. It's okay. Let me see if the mic is good. Seems fine, I think. Maybe a little bit louder if I'm a bit further away. Seems fine. Maybe. Maybe a little loud. Probably fine. Well, the plan for today is, first off, to prepare for Saturday, which will be the next big session of Whispers of Fate, which is the main D&D campaign that I'm doing right now. And besides that, maybe think about some lore around that. I haven't really prepared much for it, so I kind of just want to think about the place and the situation, kind of refresh myself, and at the same time maybe refresh any new people so they can jump in and know a bit more about the world as well. And then if anyone wants to play, they can join as well. But I need to do this either way, so I thought this was a good idea to stream this, since it doesn't really matter if anyone watches or not. And this is a nice log for me to look back at as well if I need to remember things. So let me go through the information from last session, kind of refresh my brain a little bit. Maybe just tell the story of what happened. And hopefully I don't forget too many things. If I remember correctly... Okay. Why are you already judging me? I thought you told Salah that I need to stream, and then I'm streaming, and then you're already roasting me for trying to stream. You need to start somewhere, okay? I'm chilling. If nothing else, maybe someday somebody can watch this and just enjoy the story that is told. Let's see how good I can put this in a story-like structure. It is gonna be a big lecture, so I hope you're ready. Actually, let me show you the map, so maybe a bit more... Oh, there we go. I put a link below my channel for anyone ever watching this wondering where the maps are from. They allow people to use their maps and I pay for them monthly, so... Okay. I don't know who Shard Candy is, but okay. Okay, that's a bit aggressive. I think that's good. So the story starts, well, at least this chapter of the story starts a little bit ago with a member of the party, the one that calls himself Jax. I'll zoom on him a little bit. Originally just a hunter from a western village. The western part of this world is pretty similar to like European style cities, little villages, mostly forest. In the winter it might snow sometimes, but it's mostly a mild climate. He grew up in this little village where his parents, or his dad more specific, was the guardian of the village that he grew up in, and he would protect it from any monsters or wild animals or even bandits that might get close to it or might threaten it. And so his entire life, Jax kinda, well, had this figure in his life that would show him what it's like to protect other people, and would teach him these morals and these ideas that he took to heart. However, in his brain it would never really be good enough, because it's one thing to protect the village over and over from these incoming threats, but it's another to really try to do that on a bigger scale. What if you could take out the source of these threats and make it so many other villages who don't maybe have the protection that his had never had to fear for such things again? And so he set out into the world, traveling from place to place, and eventually ending up in where we are now, where most of the story has been set so far, which is this little island of Helen. Which is, it's while it's loading in, it's a pretty insignificant island in the grand scheme of things, but it is an island that's known basically all over the world by anyone who is interested in religion or magic, since it is seen as kind of this like, I don't know how to say the word in English, but like a holy place. That's maybe the closest to it. It's seen as a place people go to feel closer to the gods that are very much real in this world, but maybe people know of the legends about the gods. People know of or maybe have heard stories about people doing miraculous things, but it's not like there's a cleric in every village performing these magical acts. So for most people, they still have to have some kind of belief, because in their everyday life they maybe don't really notice that much, or they're not really affected by any of these things happening to them. And so a lot of people who, well, want to feel closer to these higher beings travel to Helen, which is an island situated in between basically every continent that is currently known of by the players, which is the West continent that I said is more like a Europe-style continent with mostly forest and mild climate. Then the southern continent, which is this vast desert area with a lot of like tribes and all the typical like desert themes. And then the last continent that is known of, which is kind of to the northwest, but it's mostly the northern part that has actually like, that has knowledge that is spread about it. There's not much known about the eastern part of this continent. The northern part is, well, basically like a landscape just covered with ice and snow. Wherever you wander, just endless, vast, icy deserts. And it is there that the Goliaths are from, which are basically Viking-like, but almost double the size of a normal human, almost giant-like. But they are very, well, adventurous is maybe a wrong word, but they do travel a lot over the world, and that is why that continent is also known to people, especially for this race of giant men that homes from there. I kind of lost my thread. The continents, and oh, so Jax was from the western part. Yeah, so he kind of wandered around and eventually came to this place that is called Helen, which is known, that's where I was, which is known between all these continents, and is a place of kind of worship, both the magical and the spiritual alike. There's a lot of inner politics within this island. Not everything is as peaceful as it might seem from the outside out. For example, this northern part of the island that you see, that is kind of just connected with this tiny bridge that is used for trade and such things alike. But it's mostly just ruled by a almost dictatorial regime of a human king who has kind of ruled there from generation after generation, who doesn't really welcome any magic or religion. They're very closed off to the outside world, and that is also why not many people really know about this part of Helen. And it's also not something that our party or any of my players have really gone to, so I don't want to tell too much or convey too much information about this place that is mostly unknown of so far. It is only, well, spoken of as a place that not many wander to, because, well, it's not easy to get to, as it is walled off in almost all directions. Of course, there's actual sharks in Shark Bay. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called Shark Bay, right? Where was I? Oh, so eventually, Jax, one of the party members, ended up on this island, and after many adventures, or after much traveling throughout these different climates or these different woods, forests, he ended up with a group of people who kind of were going in the same direction as him, who ended up discovering or growing an interest in the same things that he had coming to this island, which was a lingering corruption that had found itself grasped, collected, grown into the nature of the island itself. It seemed that some animals within this forest had an unnaturalistic incline to attack others or humans, as Jax himself found out, as one of the first encounters he had upon this island was being attacked by a deer whose eyes were red as flames, and who almost killed him then and there, but luckily he managed to slay it, not really revealing anything more to him, but it did show him that there are things to this island that he wanted to know more of, and things he felt like he must get to the ground to, so he may, well, maybe protect these people upon this island, so he may learn about this and see if it must be destroyed for the greater good, just like his father once did with his village. he was now looking for places all over the world to do the same, but on a bigger scale. And so he ended up with a group of people, a cleric, a ranger, that was him, and a wizard, which we will talk maybe a bit more later, but it started like that. These three adventurers wandering about this island and quickly running into problems that they did not have the experience to really face yet at this time. And some of them sadly perished or died facing these threats, and others got captured by an organization that was present on this island that they hadn't really been told of, but had always known existed. It seems they mostly work from the shadows. They mostly work from the... They try not to draw too much attention to themselves. And it is this organization that called themselves the Freedom Fighters that captured many of his original party members. And they all ended up in a place called Eagle's Peak, which is the home base of this organization. And they were, or at least Jax, from what he knows, was asked to make a deal with this organization to either help them to gain back his freedom, or otherwise just, well, be thrown in jail forever, or even worse. It was not a hard choice to make, as Jax knew that, well, he still had things he wanted to do with his life. And so he decided to work for these people. And the task they had given him was not that hard either, as in it didn't put that many restrictions upon him, since all they really asked of him was to steal a certain artifact within a uncertain amount of time, since they knew the powers he and his party had at that moment in time weren't good enough yet to do such a task. They allowed them to continue on their way for a little bit at least, keeping a close eye on them, of course, but making sure they could accomplish this task. And so they set out on many different adventures around Eagle's Peak, which I won't get into too much detail in. However, all you should know is not all his party members came out of these things the same way, including Jax, as on one of his adventures he was his objective was to make sure a threat of werewolves was gotten rid of in one of the nearby villages. He successfully dispatched the group that was located there. However, he did not come out of it the same, as he got bit by one of the cursed creatures and was sadly overtaken by said same curse. So far within the story, it hasn't really played that big of a role yet. However, he has noticed some of the side effects of this curse, especially with the full moon approaching soon. Most notably, accidentally killing one well, not one of his party members, but someone he met along the road, an old man that offered to help him, offered to make sure he stayed safe after he was banished from Eagle's Peak, still working for them, but not being allowed in the city anymore after a curse was placed upon him. This man who helped him, well, the island is not significant as in it is not significant within the grand scheme of things, but it is significant to the story that is currently taking place within the campaign that I'm running. But if you would go, let's say, I don't know, 100 kilometers to the south, I'm sure an equally important story is happening at this time, but that is just not the focus of the, well, of the current narrative. So where was I? Yeah, so Jax met this old man who offered so kindly to help him. However, eventually the curse overtook him, and Jax sadly consumed the man. The only thing that really kept him going was his party members that I mentioned before, or at least the one of them that still remained, a wizard named Mato. This, however, would end pretty quickly too, as without any notice, Mato stopped visiting him, first for 1 week, and for 2 weeks, and for a month. So at this point, Jax knew that Mato might not come back anytime soon. However, knowing that his friends are the only real thing that kept him going, that kept him connected to the humanity he so desperately craved at this point, he knew his only choice was to go out and go look for them. Go look for him, his friend, his other party members, hoping he could find them somewhere in this vast world, following the threads from one point to the other. And that is how we are led to our last session that happened almost 2 weeks ago, where Jax set out once more in search for his friends. With him came a protector of Eagle's Peak, a citizen who had been there for a time that was insignificant to himself, a warforged named Cain, which is a robot-like creature who I've done a big backstory on before as well, with the player who plays him, which was very fun to do because it expanded the lore a lot as well. But all you should know for now is that he, through circumstances, has sworn a vow to protect Jax on this mission. And so they set off and traveled to the northern part of the island, where they were told lies a village that is known to be often there's another word that I'm looking for but I can't find, but it's okay, to be often invaded by Triton, which are these humanoid fish-like creatures that live under the sea. I think now at this point I'll show the other map again. This is the village that they were told about by someone at Eagle's Peak who has grown fond of Jax. She is the same one that gifted or told Cain to protect Jax at this point. Along the way, they met someone, figure hold a bit in mystery. Not much is yet known about him. He's a crow-like creature. I can show him as well. I can show Kane as well. Let me just show everyone side to side. These are the current party members that we will be continuing with on Saturday, hopefully. One of the party members currently has some problem with his computer, so it might not happen Saturday, but hopefully soon anyway. So they met this person along the city walls who they didn't know much about yet, but who offered to help them without really any price in return. So they were very skeptical of him, but so far he has managed to help them for the amount that they really needed, so they haven't really asked any other questions. And what they were looking for, what they were told lies within this village, is a ship log that belongs to a general of the Triton that they were looking for. And why they would need a ship log is because they heard that Mato, the wizard, his friend, that went missing on a boat somewhere, which is hardly surprising since it is an island that they were on. So if he were on the island, the mission would be all too easy to go and find him. But since he went missing on a boat, he basically could be anywhere. So the first place to start for him was well, to go looking for these Triton and to see if they might help him. He's like the guy from The Witcher. Oh, the other people are a crow and a robot, okay? You're not supposed to think they are hot. But yeah, so they ended up there and went in search for this ship log that might tell them where their friends are located. They snuck into the village and closely avoided the guards. The first plan was to just scout around and see what information they could gather, but they quickly noticed that there weren't that many guards just walking through the street. So they thought it would be a great idea to try to break into the sheriff's office and see if they can just steal the ship's log then and there. So the plan was put in action. The plan that took them about 2 seconds to conceive was put in action, and they started raiding the building. The crow flew in, broke the glass, and quickly found himself in a room with 3 guards in it. Quickly he got overwhelmed as the others started hurrying in all directions. Kane, the warforged that he is, has the ability to create illusions. He used this ability to create the illusion of a giant explosion taking place on the other side of the city. He had heard this sound before, as he is a warforged who has been in many, well, really one, but yeah, just listen to his backstory, or you can read it on my Discord as well. I wrote a pretty big paragraph about him, or you can look at it on my YouTube as well. But yeah, so he created a distraction by a giant explosion that, of course, not only alerted everyone within the building, but also all the guards who were posted outside of the city walls. So now they had to deal with basically an entire army, knowing that they were trying to get something, which was an interesting idea. So yeah, however, they fought off successfully some people within the building, and Jax managed to find not the ship log that they were looking for, but a interaction with a general that they had heard of, since it seems that this city is currently being watched over by a captain of the Triton, and the general himself is not located within the city. And Jax found an interaction between them that showed him the location of where this general might be at this time, which is hopefully as well where they could find this log that they are looking for. So having acquired what they needed, they quickly hurried back to the window they broke in from, and with a great set of rolls managed to break back out of the building, landing perfectly, and started running not towards the outer walls as you might have expected, but towards the sea to get a boat that they might escape in, which they successfully made it within the boat and looked back, quickly realizing that these fish-like humanoid creatures do in fact have the ability to swim. And that is kinda where last session ended, with them realizing they are currently, well, about I'll make them a bit smaller again. I'll locate them with this. They're currently about here in the about like 250 meters from the docks, as this army of Triton is chasing them in the waters, having jumped off the docks and swimming towards them, maybe 200 feet away from them at this point. So yeah, on Saturday we will see how that ends, if they can get away, if they get captured, if they die. Anything can happen, really. Yeah, that's where the story is at this point. I know my English hasn't been great because I haven't talked D&D for a while, so it's taking me some work to get used to it again. But Saturday is the stream with the other people. It should be at 2 p.m. CST, the Whispers of Fate series. If everything goes well, that is. But it should hopefully do. I mean, yeah, but I don't talk to you about, like, I don't talk to you like in a like storytelling fashion, or I don't have to use like, oh, and then the islands grew together. Slad handed me a snowball earlier while I was trying to do my online class. So yeah, that's where we are at this point, and I kind of wanna what I wanted to do today is kind of expand upon the lore of these Tritons' intentions a little bit. I don't want to reveal too much yet, because of course I don't want them to know how to deal with them precisely. But just some more general ideas. So yeah, let me think for a second. I'll get my notes up here for a little bit, and maybe just let me see what Triton notes I already have. There we go. So I have my lore of the ocean, which tells like which creatures live within it and how they ended up where they are. But I kind of want to focus more on the present hierarchy between these different groups. I think I already wrote down a lot of these things, but I kind of forgot because of the vacation. Let's see. I already did you can go watch a whole other stream where I talked for like 2 hours about sea creatures. But I mean, it will be about sea creatures again now, but not like ancient history, more like the current going-ons. Let's see. Where did I write it? Maybe I can just remember. It should be in ocean history, probably. I have like 100 different tabs with just random lore in them. I really need to organize this better. Faction 1. Yeah. So currently there are 3 factions. And when I talk about the ocean, I mostly mean the ocean around Helia. Which is, well, where the most of the story is taking place at this point. So that's why I'm only really focusing on the history of this place at this point. Which has 3 main factions that are known of at this point, which is the followers of Helia, the followers of Atiana, and the followers of an unknown god. Helia is the goddess of nature, Atiana is the goddess of order, and this unknown god is, well, an unknown god, so not much is known about him. All that is really known about the 3rd faction that I will tell you now is that it's more of a cult than a society. It's these fish-like, mostly creatures or other humanoids that worship things or gods that are not known of by any of the general religions. A lot of inspiration for this faction comes from like eldritch stories or like Lovecraftian stories, things like that. If you're interested in that, there's a whole campaign going on right now with Ripples of Madness, which is the campaign that is going on with Mato, the wizard that I mentioned earlier. You can look in my Discord as well if anyone else wants to know. But yeah, so I'm not going to focus that much on that faction since I already have a lot of lore about them, and I will go more in depth in the other series that I am doing with Mato. So the faction that the Tritons are from is the faction that worships Atiana, the goddess of order, and their leader is the ocean king at this point, which is Proteus, another Triton that rules most of the ocean around Helia at this point. The 2nd faction is more of like they don't really have structures within the ocean. They mostly keep to themselves. These are mostly people like Sea Elves, who are very powerful but don't really crave power or like a structure in the ocean as much as followers of Atiana might. All they really try to do is make sure that the creatures of the ocean keep enough space and that their territory isn't really taken advantage of by the followers of Atiana and stuff like that. So, them again. I know you said I don't have an OnlyFans yet because you told me I can't make an OnlyFans, so it's not my fault. What was I saying? Why you keep getting me out of my storytelling modus? Where was I? Yeah, so we focus on the only faction we really focus on at this point is the faction of Atiana, which are the Triton, which is the same faction that currently has the general and the captain here. This is the person that they... Wait, no, I think I used the general token. I might get a different token from him, because this kind of looks like a fuckboy. I don't want him to look like this. Like, he needs to look cooler. Let me get a cooler picture for him. Triton general. Never mind. I don't know. I'll do it later. I feel like this is not good stream content to just look up pictures. Okay, that's kind of mean. So yeah, we have this Captain Treyfuss, and then we have the general whose name is Rumnus, if I remember correctly. That's not like one-to-one. Of course, a king has many generals and a general has many captains, but this is the current like line that they are focusing on, or that they have encountered so far, which is the captain within the city, and then the general that they are looking for further on, who is told to be in a ancient base, which is not necessarily theirs. It's just kind of indicated on a map that Jax had found. Kind of want to think more how I want to do, or I'm not sure yet how I want to do that necessarily. Let me think for a second. So get him off my screen. Did I write lore for that already or no? Let me see. Episodes. Yeah, I think that will be a good... I think that will be a good story to tell, to try to go over. Phantom can't even hear me. Sad. Yeah, I think we will tell the story about how this place that they are going to, or well, unless they die next session, but still it's fun lore to make anyway. This place that they might go to had come to be. So how all of this ancient ocean history kind of started was with a lot of conflict and magic, as most things started within this world. I don't think I will go over everything again, but all you should know is that these three factions that I mentioned before were even bigger in the past, and there is a lot of history between them that eventually led to the Tritons having a major control over the ocean. And in their heyday, in their moment where they had the most power, they even conquered and controlled many parts of the ocean, They still do at this point, but to a lesser extent, as in their heyday they had these giant structures basically all over the ocean, which included guardian creatures that they had captured like krakens or giant sharks, things like that. Of course, other more mythical creatures as well. But eventually, over time, as their kingdom grew a bit weaker, as the other factions grew in power, as they chose more of a diplomatic route for many of their solutions, many of these structures eventually grew abandoned, and many of the creatures within it were never released, were forgotten, died, lost to history, most of them really. And it is so that one of these structures grew just a short time ago, finally grew, what's the opposite of abandoned? People inhabited them once more, with the settlement upon this coastal village where they could trade from, where they could interact with the northern island from. It was well located strategically in a place they also knew. They don't know, the Tritons have no exact location of Eagle's Peak, but they are not in good terms with them and are actively looking for this place. And of course, a city that big can't be hidden forever, even with the magics that they used to do so. Things like trade routes, things like, well, people, a large amount of people just hanging around this general area is bound to draw attention to it, which of course it did, and which made this place within the ocean such a good place, or such a strategic place to settle down for this general of the Ocean King. Well, let's think of some lore for this place. As I said, it was once guarded by magical creatures. But who was it that once inhabited this place? Was it a prince, princess, another general, captain? Many options, really. I don't know, what do you think? If there's anyone in chat, you can just tell me and I can go from there. What do you prefer? The history of a castle. What do you mean, a room tour of the castle or of my house? I have the map of the castle, but it was too big, so I need to, like, I don't know. Okay. I'm getting trolled in my own chat while I'm thinking about lore. Yeah, I have a story, I think. We'll see how it goes. If it sucks, I'll just make another one. No, I already have the history of the Mamboos. It already exists. Oh, hey, Light. Thanks. You're the first person that says that, because everyone else just says my camera was made in like 1945. Where was I? Oh, lore. So I mentioned how... Okay. Thanks. Probably because I went on vacation and I feel a lot more relaxed. Yeah, I know, I keep talking and then I keep getting distracted. It's fine though. It gives me some time to take a break and like not just sit here in silence while I think. I prefer this. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so I mentioned how this empire of the Ocean King kind of collapsed somewhere in history. Collapsed is a big word, maybe, as they are still a very big faction within the ocean, but they came to an agreement, like all wars go. They eventually made a pact. A pact of peace is a big word, but more of understanding that mutual destruction is not something anybody really wants. This pact, however, was not agreed upon by all people within the royal household. And so we come to the story of someone who was close to the king, a nephew who had been given a place, as there were so many structures at this point within the ocean that the kingly line wanted to make sure they wrested control on all of them. He had given this specific structure to one of his nephews, who took it with great gratitude, as since he was young he had been taught about the great kingdom that they would build, about how Atiana would save them from all the bad things that happened in the world, about how if only their kingdom was bigger, no one would have to suffer anymore. Order would be restored, none would be poor, none would be rich. If only he could just... if only their family line could just grow a little bit more. So he took it with pride to, well, inhabit this castle, this keep, from where he sent out his generals, just like is happening now, his generals and his captains to scout, to see if there's land to be taken, if there's sea to be conquered. He would do his job well. And quickly he would grow from a young boy who barely knew anything about military tactics to one of the major ruling forces within the ocean, along with the king himself. Of course, always paying respect to said king, never wanting to take power, but always knowing there was more power for them to take, for Atiana to take, for order to take. So when eventually the Ocean King went behind his back and made a pact with these Sea Elves, these people that had killed so many of his loyal generals, that had slain many of the creatures he had grown to love, when he learned that this king had made a pact with these demons, he knew he could never agree with them again. And so he turned his back towards the pact and continued on the mission he saw before his eyes. He continued to enslave the creatures of the sea. He continued to grow an army around him, this time no longer serving the king of the ocean, but serving him, serving only Atiana, serving only the expansion of order he sought so desperately. The king, however, would not let this stand. As the Sea Elves grew impatient, thinking that the king might have sworn a pact, but behind their back plotted with his nephew to keep expanding their territory. Knowing this, the king knew something must be done, and it must be made public that he does not condone his nephew. And so he took up arms against him, and he waited outside his keep. His army of thousands and thousands of Tritons surrounded it, but the nephew would not surrender. His entire life he had been taught about the great things that they would do, and here he stands betrayed by his own uncle, knowing that if he surrendered now, never again could he gain this much power, never again could he do this much good in his eyes. So he did not surrender. And a war broke out. Did my stream crash? Or is it just for me? It seems it's live. I don't know why it's crashing for me. Just refresh it. Is my stream live? Can anyone answer? Because I don't know why it's being weird for me. Oh, okay. Well, and so the war broke out, and many were lost on both sides, making the Ocean Kingdom even weaker than it already was. The Sea Elves, seeing their faction fight among themselves, quickly took the opportunity to reinforce their previous territory, making sure that never again could the Ocean Kingdom threaten it. Unknowingly, the nephew had done the very thing he had sworn, or had destroyed the very thing he had sworn to protect. He had destroyed Atiana's order and was forced, or felt forced, to break his own ideals so that once they might rise again. His fate is left unknown, but all that is known is that a few weeks later, the Ocean King returned to his throne, and all that is left of the keep that once stood so tall within the ocean is but ruins. Ruins now inhabited once more, this time not by a nephew, but by a general of that same Ocean King. A general who holds the logs of the things that happen within their territory. A general that might help our party find their friends. That's the story of the keep. So I'm freezing because I didn't turn on the heater and it's like -1 outside. What's next? I mean, if anyone wants to play some D&D, then I would be down for that too. But I don't know if there's anyone else in the chat except for people who don't want to play. Let me think. Well, if anyone wants to play, then just don't join the Discord and just send something in general, and I'll explain the rules about how you can join and what we can do. The concept is kind of like an arena type game where I will run a series of monsters or just one monster in an arena that is ever changing as well, and you can make a level 4 character and try to beat the challenge that only one person has done so far out of like 6 tries. It will be very challenging. It is not fair. It is an arena known for its unfairness, so don't expect it to go easy. But if anyone wants to join, they can. Otherwise, I will just continue telling some stories about the lore. It is interesting. I wrote lore for my whole last lore session was about the arena. It has interesting lore, I think. Let's see, what can I expand upon still? I wish everything I said, like someone is just like writing it down, because I really need to start writing the things down that I do on the lore sessions as well, so I actually remember them. But I mean, I've done that a few times, but I need to catch up a little bit. Let's think. What is next? Well, I can tell the story of the captain himself, since he is someone that the party already met and is not likely to see again. And if they do, I don't think having more lore about him would necessarily hurt the story much. And also, I don't think any of the party members are in chat anyway, so... Let's think if there's anything interesting about Captain Treyfuss, a Triton captain, who is... Well, actually, we can take the image that I had given him. He can look like this if he wants to. There's something on his nose. Oh, there's a small guy inside him. Oh, there we go. We have... Wait, why it keeps... Oh, never mind. The Triton are not like humans, as in the same way that humans have different races. Tritons have so as well. However, their differences are usually not in their skin tone, although that might occur as well. It is usually in well, places of their fins, their ways of traversing the ocean, things like that. As someone who, for example, lives most of their time along the coast will have different evolving features than a Triton who, let's say, lives in the depths of the ocean. Of course, these are often interchangeable, as one from the depths might decide to travel to land as well, but the other way around might be harder. these things happen. It is a magical world. These creatures are magical beings. Things like pressure don't have as much effect on them. All to say that there is much difference between the different Tritons, although they stand together under one king. And so we find ourselves on Captain Treyfuss, who was once nothing but a soldier, and before that nothing but a squire. He served in the capital city itself, which is located not in the depths, but in a general, like, maybe like 200 meters under the ocean. Is that too deep? I don't know how deep, like, is 200 meters? How deep is the ocean when you have like a general, like maybe near the coast ocean? Let me look it up. How deep is the ocean? Apparently it's a song as well. How deep is the ocean for a whale to swim? Oh, 2,000 meters. So let's say then, like, sperm whales also regularly dive to like 1,000 meter deep. So I feel like probably like 1,000 meters is where like a capital city would be located. I feel like that's a general idea. Some parts lower, some parts higher. Yeah. And it is there that Captain Treyfuss grew up as well. Being the squire of a notable knight. He's not of a noble family by any measure, but his parents were wealthy enough or had enough to say to manage to get him to squire for a knight. None of his family before that had had such an honor. His father was a his father made saddles, and he was actually one of the best saddlesmiths in the entire capital city, and that is what gave him the honor to make his son a squire, as he made the saddle for King Proteus himself. He was given the opportunity to hire his family, and his son had been given that honor from birth. Treyfuss was basically forced to follow but one path, as this honor is not something one can decline. So he became a squire for one of the knights in the capital city, doing this for many years, along his youth. Let's see, how old do Tritons even get? They can live to 200 years, so it's about double as humans. So probably for like 30 years of his life he spent squiring, and eventually like any squire, he grew out of that, or he was given the opportunity to prove himself as a soldier. He set out, he did many missions as a soldier, and eventually was promoted to a knight, and then a captain. And so he found himself being sent to a nearby village, where he was told to wait and to report back to the general. And it is there, around his 50th year of life as he is now, as he was sitting in this place that is far away from any nearby city, and he started wondering to himself if all of this is really worth it, if he will ever be able to make a decision that is his own, really. He has grown so high in his ranks, and yet here he is sitting in a city still controlled by others, still being told what to do as he was but a squire. He knows that that is what it is like to live in this Triton society that is ruled by Atiana, the goddess of order. There's nothing that may go not according to plan. His parents take pride in the fact that they know that he might die a general, that he might be commanded by the king himself. Treyfuss, however, has been doubting these ideas. Not openly, just when the evening falls and he sits there staring out the window of this cold, small village, seeing the people that his people have commanded to work for them. The normal humans who once lived in this city who are now being commanded by the Tritons. He sees his parents in them as they are also but lowly workers who wish that one day they might have something better for their family. He wished it could go another way, but he is too weak to do anything about it himself. He knows that the structure must be upheld for him to make his parents proud, for him to make his kind proud. And so he continues to do it, day after day. When eventually there are intruders attacking his village, his place that he is supposed to protect is getting invaded by people who wish to destroy everything he has built. And he knows that if one day he might not do as his general commands, if one day he decides to take the wheel over his own fate, it will not be forced by some outsiders. It must be his own decision. So today is not the day he will give up on his country, on his people. Today will be the day he fights for them. And so as these misfits attack or dare steal from him, he knows there is but one thing that will make his people proud, and that is to get rid of them as fast as he can, as efficient as he can, to throw them in the deepest cellar that they can find, and make sure that none of this is reported to the general as any problem that might arise. So no shame shall come on himself, so he can know that at least he did his job well. And so as he sees them disappear on their rowboat into the ocean, he puts his swords back in their sheaths. He starts running to the docks and dives into the all-familiar water, knowing he will catch them, knowing he is faster than them, strategizing, communicating to his troops. He will not let them escape, for his destiny depends on it. So yeah, that's the story of Treyfuss. Okay, I think I'm kinda out of. No, thank you. I think I'm kinda out of energy now, unless someone wants to play. I feel like I talked a lot earlier as well. I think I prefer doing just more of these streams, but I feel like if I do like pure lore streams, it takes a lot of energy, so I can only do like an hour and a half or something, which is fine. I think that I have like, oh, here's an hour and a half stream, here's an hour and a half, and then here's like the big D&D session. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm hoping if I do more streams that eventually I can play with more people too, as more people will join the community, and hopefully some more people want to play D&D as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for staying in the chat, and yeah, that's it. Ciao.